Hello everyone and welcome to a late CPD breakfast on Friday 21st of May. We had a really good live session yesterday morning. I think if you can make any of the live sessions, which will be running every Thursday morning from 8:30 to 9, it's a really positive thing to do to be able to engage with each other, and we solved quite a lot of logistical problems. But I also thought it might be useful to give a sense of some of the ideas we discussed in the session about establishing whole class feedback when the whole class isn't actually responding, and thinking a little bit about preparing and developing the class question and answer. So when I do a whole class feedback remotely, what I've been doing is slightly different to what I do in class, which I think is appropriate for the format, but I've tried to pick out what I'm calling qualities. So on the left-hand side, I've got some individual examples of work that pupils have done. I like to quote pupils. I think it's a really positive and specific way, rather than just saying excellent work. That quotations in particular allow you to be as specific as possible, or examples that are specific of things they've done in terms of their work. And then some general ideas around the nature of the class behaviours, which are things which are impressive. So this was for an English language GCSE paper, paper 2, question 5, and just thinking about how they engage in their analysis of text and that sort of thing. So then it goes on to talk about misconceptions, and here's some individual word choices, completing the following, and then some dirt tasks here as well. I think that FreeCam's just cut out a couple of things there. That's meant to be misconceptions, complete the following, and then dirt. So again, some general misconceptions specific to the work that I know they've done, some specific things that I know they need to do, and then a task that will be useful in relation to what they're doing. So that's what you can do when you've got a good turnout from your pupils. But when you don't, whole class feedback is still really important. And it's also a really important way of encouraging pupils to work if they've not been necessarily engaging with the work, and enabling those that have been engaging to get some good responses. So a little way of establishing this was just for me a very simple sort of 4-table system, where I've got up here, again, I think FreeCam's just cut it out, common misconceptions here. So these are general ideas around these kind of texts and ideas rather than specific things related to their work, but they're often issues in GCSE. I think it's good to go to exam board reports and pull some of those sort of things out for pupils. Here is some modelling. So what I've done is created some helpful suggestions. And again, as well as being good for the pupils who have done the work, I think it's also good for pupils who haven't done their work. It might give them a starter into it. So I'm not saying that this is a sort of perfect situation. Of course, it's not, or that this is an ideal model. Everything's transient, particularly at the moment. We want to be thinking flexibly, but this might be a jumping off point for your thinking in terms of how you want to present whole class feedback for pupils who aren't really engaging. So again, the dirt activity I've kept pretty much the same because it would have been very useful whether they have or haven't done the work. And this would be a useful activity for them to do if they do get out with the work. And then some useful vocabulary. So to look these words up and try to include them in their writing. And also these are the sort of words that might benefit from the sort of Freire diagrams that Olivia was talking about in her takeaway teaching this Monday. So what I've done is I'll attach the PowerPoint when I send out the video link. So you've just got an example of what it looks like, and you can use this as a template for your own whole class feedback if you think that would be useful. And of course, useful vocabulary could be useful equations, useful technical vocabulary, useful practical skills. It's entirely flexible, isn't it? And modelling could be a picture of what great work looks like, particularly, say, for catering. If you're feeling very ambitious, say, and it's a practical activity, a video could go here. So that might be something that I might try, actually. So what to move on to then is just preparing about the class Q&As for Year 10 and Year 12. Now, it's been the first week of doing this, and having spoken to Josie and a few other teachers, turnout's been varied, and I think it's been predictable according to higher ability pupils and middle pupils, to be honest, because it seems that some of the very enthusiastic pupils in English, Maths and Science who are associated with higher ability bandings have engaged quite well, and others haven't. So a couple of things to remember on that. First of all, remember this isn't a lesson where you're expecting all the pupils. It's a Q&A. So it's about availability. So I think the engagement comes in from, are they able to submit the work and do it to a good degree? The Q&As are a refinement for you to have some face-to-face engagement with them. Yes, obviously, it feels better to us if more pupils are engaged, but if only 2 or 3 engage and are able to respond to the questions and answers that you have in the session, that's a really positive thing. So remember, this isn't like attendance to a lesson. So I think the important thing is to keep these routines in place, keep the structure in place, and keep on sort of pushing and challenging the pupils to engage. So one of the ways I did this was I used the Teams post area to remind them about the Q&A session, to emphasize that they could drop in or out at any time, and then just a bit of a description of what I'd be doing in the session. I also created a one question survey for them to complete before the meeting, and therefore they could add any things they'd found difficult in that particular area. Running the Q&A, what you'll find is that they should be able to join or leave the meeting whilst it's running. It will look like this on your screen. There's had an update where you'll be able to see more than just 3 other people on the screen. So it's gone to an update where you can see 9 people now, which again just makes it feel a bit more vibrant and a bit more dynamic. And then you can see here in the toolbar that they've added this thing here, which is to virtually raise your hand so that pupils can raise their hand. And again, with the pupils that you work with in the Q&As, just get them to trial it and then you can see what it looks like. Yesterday, a lot of my pupils turned their mics off and then raised their hands when they wanted to make a contribution. However, it's still possible that pupils will not want to actually say anything. They may want to be in the session, which I think is very useful for them, but they may actually want to ask a question physically. So a good way to get them to encourage it is to use the chat element of the meeting. So if you look here, this little sort of speech bubble type icon here, this opens up the meeting chat, which will then appear in the side of the page for you. And here pupils can add questions or thoughts or points of reference that you can then answer and respond to. So here with my year 10s, we had 3 questions about iambic pentameter, Blake naming his poems, and the Romantic movement. And that was a useful thing. In terms of a running order potentially for these Q&As, any questions and answers from the post, or if you've done a survey, I think it's a good way to start. Again, 5 to 10 minutes of modelling and talking aloud through potential responses, and then an open forum for pupils' questions. And again, what I found yesterday is that the first 15 to 20 minutes that had the larger volume of pupils, but what was really helpful and useful is pupils did continue to ask me questions throughout before, again, dropping in and dropping out again. And that was a really helpful way of refining their thinking and just moving them forward. So it was a helpful thing. So at this stage, remember, attendance isn't the issue with the Q&As. We're thinking about the purposefulness of it to give those pupils who are highly engaged even better support and development. And we continue to work with engaging the wider pupil cohort as best as we possibly can. So we had a very, very useful live session yesterday. Thank you to all of those who contributed to it. And I hope that with this video, I've captured some of the flavour of the session. Thank you very much again to everyone for your phenomenal hard work this half term. I'm so proud to be responsible for teaching and learning in a school where teachers take learning so seriously, irrespective of the context and the situation. So thank you for your hard work. Have a restful half term, look after yourselves, and see you and speak to you all in the new half term. Take care, everyone. Bye.